Hello everyone. In this episode, you will learn how to configure your iOS app to connect to OpenAI and create your own ChatGPT or anything you want related to AI. But before jumping into the code, I would like to explain a few things. First, I'm using OpenAI, but technically speaking, the setup is similar if you're using Gemini, Llama, or any other service because actually connecting to OpenAI or any AI service is like connecting to any web API service. The setup is pretty similar. So if you're planning to your app to connect to many services or choose from an option, well, just think about it that maybe an abstraction to keep things simple and overall they work similar. Although I don't have all the details about other services because I'm focusing right now on OpenAI, but you got the point. So now, before moving on, one of the first questions we should ask is what is the model we should use for our application? If you are like me that just want to take a look and experiment a little bit, I would recommend you GPT-4o Mini. As you know, there are many models. There are GPT-4, GPT 3.5 we had earlier, DALL-E for images, etc. So it's depending on what you want to do. You want to create an image AI app or just text app or a speech application, etc. So it's depending on what you need. But for the purpose of this video, I will just need text, and I will use the most affordable and most capable, I would say, for almost all the tasks. Right? If you need something more robust, more specific, I would recommend you maybe GPT-4o. But for our case, 4o Mini will be enough. If you're watching this a year later, probably those models are legacy, obsolete, or so. Well, just find out the best one that or an equivalent in the future. And one of the questions I had when I started this investigation was, is there a free trial for any of the models? The answer is no, but that doesn't mean that they are expensive, unless depending of who you ask for. But there are, let me show you this. Depending on the model you use, there are different capabilities, okay? And there are rates for how much requests you can do per day, per minute, etc. Okay, and depending on that, well, you can or the model you want to use, well, it is the amount of money that you will pay. For example, if you want to use GPT-4o Mini, this is the rate limits. For example, this one is request per minute, so that means you can do up to 500 requests per minute. If you are alone testing this, well, that's a lot for you, okay? But think about it that if you want to launch this app publicly for commercial purposes, well, 500 is very nothing, okay? But you get the point. And there is also here RPD, which means request per day, which is limited to 10,000. But again, if you're just for you, this is just for you, that's cool. This is the amount of tokens that you can use per minute. One of the questions I had is, what is a token? Well, I will try to explain in just simple terms. If I go to this demo app, here we have a code. Normally, when we are developing, we use this format, right? We just implement something in a language. This case is Swift. But the computer is not actually reading this. It is, well, we have a compiler that is transforming this into binary code. One of the processes that we have to do here to understand that the logic or the grammar of this language is good, is fine, is using, splitting this into a structure that could ensure that the identifiers, the import, and everything is making sense, okay? One way to do this is, one of the steps for that is tokenization, which is basically creating and identifying, okay, for example, this is a struct, it's a keyword, okay? It is specifically for some purposes. we have a var here, which is for a variable, but we do a specific action and we transform that into something that the computer will understand. I would like to talk more about compilers in the future. It's one of my passions, to be honest. If you want a video about it, just let me know. But following the same logic, that's exactly what happened with the GPT models. We send a prompt. The prompt is in natural language, but technically speaking, the computer will not read that. It will transform that into tokens. Let's say if we say I love Apple with an exclamation, well, all those words will be identified as a token, and then that token will be introduced in another series of process to identify, okay, if this guy said I love apples, what is the correlation between all those words? It is more complex than that, right? I will try to simplify it because that is out of the scope of this video, okay? But just think about it. Basically, a token is like a word, okay? If you talk about books, a token is like the words in the book, in the page, right? And it is mostly how you should understand this, okay? So basically, 200,000 words. So now, and you will see here that there is a free rate, but to be honest, I don't even know what happened here, but I was not able to use a free trial or free tier here. If you're capable to do so, go ahead. But I will say that all those models are pretty old, so definitely I will recommend you something newer here, like GPT-4o Mini. Now, if you want to learn more about the pricing, I will suggest you go here, OpenAI API Pricing, and for example here we have GPT-4o Mini, and well, you will see that here it's just for basically 15 cents. You can get 1 million of input tokens. Two more things before jumping into the code. We need to know what is the URL API that we have to consume. For the purpose of this video, we'll use this one, v1, chat, and completion. There are more, depending on what you need, like images, audio, etc. So you can take a look if it's what you're looking for, but for most of you, I would recommend you this one. And now, what you should configure from your end is an API key. And by the way, this is sensitive information, so I will censor this for my own convenience. But creating an API key is like creating any other API key from any web service. So you just need to click here, type a name, my key, selecting the project because you can have multiple projects. I'm just selecting this one because I have just one. And restrict permissions. So here, depending of what you want to do, if you want to allow to use other model capabilities here, if you want to keep it simple, I will suggest for just demo purposes to keep all permissions. Okay, and now you just need to create the key from this button and keep it in a safe place. You will see that key only once, so that's very important. If you forgot it, you can create a new one, so don't worry about it. Okay, it's time to jump to the code. I'm going to start with the most simplest piece of code, which is the network layer. I will create something here, and I'm just creating this. It's a pretty simple network layer, so basically a function, so don't worry about it, okay? And we will configure a request from a URL request. Now, I'm going to create another layer called request builder. And I'm going to hide this. There you go. Request builder will help me to build the request, okay? First, we have the API key that we just copied from the previous screen. And if you want to create another one, you just need to update here. Here, I'm using it as an computed property just for me to not be censoring this code over and over, okay? But this is not necessary. But I will talk more about the API key at the end of the video, so keep going. Okay, so here we are we have a function to build a request. Okay, this prompt is basically what the user will type in the keyboard. All right. And for me, I'm configuring the URL API that I want to use. Okay, and I'm doing this flexible, well, just because I think it's good for me. Okay, and I will return in an URL request. So we are calculating if it's a valid API URL. We configure the request. Okay, this is important. All those parameters here are necessary. Okay, we need the URL, yes. The HTTP method for this API call will be post. Okay, we need to add a couple of values to the header, which is better. Well, here the point is that we will inject the API key we just got, and we will insert it into the authorization header field, and we will configure this as a JSON. Next, we need to configure something called parameters, which is basically a dictionary. All right. Here, the minimum amount of information that we need to provide is the model, which is GPT-4o mini. So here, depending on what you need, it will be different. And specifically for chat completion, this is requesting messages. Okay, and this is like a format that OpenAI API uses to understand what are you asking for. So, for example, I'm sending a message as a user, and my content or the prompt I'm trying to send is this one. Okay, so this is basically the input, and then once you send this, you will receive a reply from the service. This is the minimal configuration, and now everything else is just serializing this as JSON data and sending this to HTTP body. Okay, that is the request builder I'm using. Again, it is the minimal amount of code that you need for this. Okay, the next thing is creating the layer to communicate the UI with the OpenAI service. For that, I will create something called AIService. And it's right here. And I'm configuring network layer and request builder. I'm adding a couple of other things just to speed up the video. I'm adding an error message just for me to understand if what I got was an error, a legit error, or something else. Maybe an error from the GPT service that is directly replying through an error in the chat, or otherwise it is me telling that. You will see that in a moment. This is the URL we just saw, ChatGPT completion. And this get AI response is the one that will do the magic to transform the prompt into a legit response from the GPT service. Here what we are doing is just building the request, okay, from the prompt and the URL that is right here. If we got something wrong here, building the request, we will get an error. Then we have this data object that is the response from the server. Okay, we don't know exactly what it is, so we need just to be careful that what we are getting is a legit response or not. In case of any error, well, we will report that. But if we got data, we will go here to decode response. And here we are providing a data object. We will need to transform that data object, like any other JSON object from the web, into something meaningful for us in Swift. That's why I'm creating this AI response that we don't have right now, but let's go and create it. I'm going to create it right now, okay? And it's pretty simple. It is using the following objects: ID, object created at, the model we use, and choices. Everything, you can read more. I can leave more information in the description, but the important part here is choices. That, by the way, we need to create another model for that. So let's create another. There we go. And this basically choice is the response from the API. We will get here the message provided by the GPT service. If I ask a question, here will be my answer, all right? And it is an array in the other, what is it? Right here, because, well, we can configure this as a chat and we can back and forth with questions and answers. But for my demo, I don't need so much capability. It's just one question, one answer. But the option is for you if you need it. Okay, everything else is just replying as a role. So this should be like a system or something else. And the content, the response from the GPT service. Everything else is mostly about reporting if what we receive as a response was something successful. And for example, if we got a finished reason that something was cut off because maybe we configure a stop button, we don't want any more response from the API, that's okay. And you will receive a reason why that happened. Okay. Now let's go back to API service. Okay. Now that we have the model, we have decoded it, now we should get the choices. And as I said, for my demo, what I really care is the first message from that particular piece. And I'm getting the content. If this is nil for some reason, I will just send no response found. That will help me to keep data clean with optionals. That's basically it. Now, the rest is just configuring the UI. And let me show you how it will be right now. I'm going to create another file. This content view will contain the UI. And it is failing because here I'm using a custom button for async calls. And I'm going to bring it right now. So you can read more about it. And there is a good utility if you want to, copy paste and use it in your own project. It is a really useful async button. Oh, let me get rid of this, by the way. Yes. There we go. Okay. Now we have the input text. We have the response text. We just have something to understand if we are loading, fetching a response in the meantime. And here we have the AI service. We just say the user, okay, give me what is your input, what is your text. And we press the button. We start a loading process. We wait for a response. And then once we got, we enable the button again. That's why we are using this async button, to make it simpler. And that's it. Now let's run it and see what happened. I'm going to use iPhone 16 and let's see the results. Okay, pretty simple. Now I'm going to type something, 2 plus 2, and see what is the result. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Yeah, it is working. Now, let's do something else. Let's maybe, what is the largest country in the world? Let's wait for it. And yeah, the largest country is Russia, which is making sense. And now let's do something about it. Let me ask one more thing. Tell me how to prepare a guacamole. And okay, it's taking time. There you go. As you see, is pretty it's just plain text, but you're getting something, right? You have right now here the ingredients or the instructions to prepare guacamole, which is awesome. Yummy, yummy. Well, that's it. I almost forgot to say one very important thing about the API key. Do not use it in the way I did it for your production application. If this is to be launched in the App Store, well, you should keep it in your own private service. Right now, I'm consuming directly from OpenAI, but the way you should do it, or the most secure way, is to create your own service, your own server, and allocate that key right there with the own security protocols, etc. Not leave it like text plain as I did, because you can be hacked, and if that key is exposed, other people can use it and create issues for you. So remember, this is just for demo purposes, but once you are ready to launch in the App Store, do not use the API key in your app. Think about it. If you want to learn more about this, I would recommend you to watch the episode podcast I had with Peter Fries when we configure Gemini API. That being said, remember that if you have any question about this demo or anything related to Swift, you can leave it in the comment down below. My name is Pete, and this is Swift and Tips. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.